We're here with head coach Paul Culver III, Sheridan Generals football, coming off of a regional final appearance last year in 2023. We're getting ready for 2024. And Coach, I appreciate your time joining our show once again, getting ready for the new season. How has your summer been, man? You've been able to take any vacations with the family or anything?
We do. We have some family who have it's kind of an inn at Kings Island, so we go there once a week. And then my family was actually able to get away to Disney, like the kids and my wife. She was a brave soldier and took them on her own because it was a last minute thing. So I have not been away, but it's been good. I've still had a lot of good dad time.
There you go. That's good. So you're a roller coaster guy then?
I'm getting older. I used to love them, man. I was the front row, back row. Like I had the hands up, screaming the whole time. Like those days are past me. I still will ride them, but maybe one time a day kind of thing.
That's fair. Fair enough. Well, I was looking back at some old stuff, like just getting ready to do these these interviews with all these different coaches and whatnot. And I found an old article from when you got hired to take over Sheridan back in 2016. And there was a quote from your dad at the time. And he basically, when he showed up for the interview, he had like no idea where he was, where the school was or anything. And he was sitting in the car and he said, I was here at least an hour before my interview and I sat in my car and waited and thought, what am I doing here? And then obviously you just look all these years later, all the MVO championships, all the winning seasons, the playoff appearances, the playoff wins, and then you take over and everything. Like when you look back at all of it now and you just see like, I guess just how the crazy ride to get to this point, like reflect on that for me, I guess.
So as a person of faith, I do believe that God is moving in ways that you can't even begin to imagine until you have that time and distance perspective. My dad didn't know that he was the head coach at Trimble High School until like 2 weeks after the board meeting that had hired him and a week before two-a-days had started. He called a buddy and said, "Hey, who'd they hire? What are you talking about? You. They hired you. Like practice starts Monday." And so then similar, perspective to Sheridan, there was, what's the word? Like reduction in force where my mom and dad were. And so the budget was getting tight and they thought they would get squeezed out. So dad started looking and he wasn't thinking Sheridan. And, then when I got the job, nobody else applied because nobody in their right mind would follow my dad. So that's
right.
Kind of a good fortune. It's worked out that we were able to keep the staff together. And so there's been a lot of moments through the years that, have led to this point. My mom and dad I'm sorry, I'm on a dad kick. You set me up.
No, you're good.
My mom and dad were a blind date that got married 4 months later. The blind date almost didn't happen. He called her and he's like, "I don't think I'm coming." So I'm sitting here because of this kind of these incredible pivotal moments in our lives that, and we talk about the game of football as a game of inches. Life is a game of instances and moments and fractions of a second where you could, fork in the path. And I'm standing in a really, really good place right now that I did not earn. It's just blessings. And I'm very fortunate to wear that S on my head and that Sheridan Generals and RMA on my chest. And I can't even believe it sometimes.
Wow. That's an blind date. Almost didn't even go.
Yep.
That's crazy.
We're like, well, I'm not. They were set up. Neither of them wanted it, and they're married 4 months later.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if I would want to go on a blind date. To be fair, so I mean, I get it.
Tell me about it.
That's funny. Well, like I said at the top, your team advanced to the regional finals last year, first time in 5 years. Obviously, a great season. I'm sure that made you more excited than ever to kind of get back at it this year, back in the weight room. Yeah, I know you talk all the time. Like first time you step back in the weight room, you kind of get goosebumps, you get chills. I mean, I'm sure you were more than excited, more than ever because of how last season went.
I don't think people that are outside of it fully understand the level of commitment that it takes to play at that level, especially, and I'm going to sound whiny here, when you don't have those dudes just walking the hallway like some schools do. We have really tough, really talented kids, but most of them need to put on 10 pounds and shave a tenth off their 40. And that comes through an absurd amount of work ethic. And our off-season program, I would put it up against anybody's. It was built by my dad. It's been continued by my brother and Coach Bendel. And they do an incredible job. And perfect case in point, I'm not going to say names, but we got 3 kids right now that I could just rattle off that quite frankly, physically, I had said, well, okay, they can't play for us last year. Like, and they're not showing me that they're going to be a guy that we need next year. Like, so who's the next guy? You know, how hard we work in the off season, it's absurd, but it works. Man, it works. You know, and I think you were one of the podcasts that I talked last year about the importance of building linemen. That's especially where it's true, but it's true at every position. And these guys, like, they're great kids, right? We have 99 kids on the football field this year. 9 through 12, yes,
Wow.
but there's 99 kids out there, and they're scraping and fighting and kicking and biting in a teammate driven kind of competitive way to get on the field. And it was bought and purchased in, you know, December, January, March, right on down February, March. And, you know, like I said, like 3, 4 kids that I was like, man, I like this kid, but he's not there. Right. And I don't know that I've seen that he will be there. And boy, it's I kind of say goodbye to them at the end of the football season, and on some level, because if they aren't in my junior or senior chemistry physics classes, I probably don't see him very much. You know, waving in the hallway and stuff. And it's like I'll see him after 2 weeks. I'm like, man, he looks like he's put on 5 pounds. And I'll see him a month later, and man, he's put on. And then our winter workouts start, and you start realizing like he's put on 7 pounds. And then you look at him at the end of April, and it's like he's put on 10 pounds and man weight, not like cookies and Little Debbie's, as my dad used to
You're not
say.
eating Doritos on the couch or anything.
No, I mean maybe they are, but you know they're young enough
Sure.
to get away with it. But they're packing it on in a good way. So, and to their credit, man, as long as Sheridan football can keep that going, that kind of culture where kids will maniacally improve themselves, and that I firmly believe that spills over into every aspect of their life. That confidence when they start walking straighter, feeling better in their clothing, feeling better about themselves, it becomes a ripple effect in everything in their classroom, in their relationships, and their future in terms of how they see themselves and their possibilities. We preach it constantly because I'm a living example. I was a 5'6", 150-pound sack of pudding when I was a freshman, and the weight room changed my life. I'm not some dude, but I got a chance because of it.
We got to work on this self-talk here. I'm sure you were a beast back in the day.
No, I've seen film, buddy. Like I was on the field because I was coach's son. Like I made all the calls, right? I started as a sophomore at linebacker at about 175 pounds of not quite pudding. Like I'd put on 20 pounds since my freshman year, and I did okay, but I'm making all the calls. I'm pointing. I'm like all the film study. I was already in my dad's hip pocket, and so that gave me a chance. I got better, but that sophomore year was pretty lean.
There we go. There we go. Well, a lot of talent graduated for you last year. I'm sure you already know that. But it seems like you have a lot coming in too that gets ready to step on the field this year that you're excited about. But like none more talented than Caden Sheridan is one of the guys that you lost. You know, at quarterback, he was so good with his arm. He never made a mistake, it seemed like, and good with his legs. He was so smart and clever in the option game in your offense. Obviously, you lose him, but then you have a guy like Tyce Whiteman that's back on the roster this year, and he's been getting some looks from people. And I know you have some other guys too. I mean, who's stepping in under center for you this year? Who's kind of led the way during camp and in your offseason stuff with your offense?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned it. The senior class that we lose unbelievable, just unbelievable football players, unbelievable young men, kids that I watched come up through the program. I love them dearly, and who fills those kind of shoes. And we've got great senior leadership this year. Jack Robinette's been there, done that. You know, he's a powerful lineman, and Sean Griffey at linebacker, and Hayden Henry and Evan Anderson will be an incredible football player for us this year in terms of that senior group. And so they're going to lead the way, my seniors, and they may not be the kid taking snaps under center, but they're the ones that the offense and defense are built on. So we have 2 guys that are getting snaps at center right now, Hupp and Whiteman. They both do a great job. They both bring a little bit different aspect to the offense. You know, for 40 years, my dad's offense was built on the option and then being able to throw the ball, right, successfully, play action and things like that. And as we've gone a little bit more spread, it has expanded into a little bit more of a sophisticated passing game. It's funny, we still call it the same stuff. Like I still use all my dad's terminology, but we're in the spread, right?
Right.
But they both do a great job. So, Tyce has an incredibly talented arm. He's very smart, very smart. Huppy is a little dynamo. He's not real big. He's about 165 pounds, but he's a dynamo with the ball in his hands, just like a water bug, the way he bounces around through defenses and stuff like that, like he's so light on his feet with quick release. And I think they both bring different things. Huppy also is going to be really valuable defensively. And so, it's just about finding the best fit for all the guys that we have. I really do think we can get close to 22 starters, right? Like that just in our size school that on some level it's surprising because we're not Division One, but yet when you get into the playoffs and you face Bloom Carroll and Watterson and Hartley and those guys they're not going two ways, right? So it becomes a fourth quarter battle. So I'm really proud of the kids that are, chomping at the bit to get their chance.
Yeah, I mean, and you said you have 90 plus kids on the roster. I mean, that makes it easier in a respect to fill 22 spots instead of having I mean, a lot of teams in this area, especially in this area, they have a bunch of guys that play both ways. So I'm sure in a way for you, that's a big advantage.
That's the point. I mean, and you sell it to the kids like, hey, you'll get your chance if you're ready. We'll find a way to get you on the field. So.
Yeah. Now talk about the rest of the skill positions on offense too, because you lose Justin Munyon at running back, who was really, really good. And then your top two pass catchers and Bryson Ruff and AJ Winders, they were really dynamic and they move on as well. So I guess the rest of the skill guys on offense that are going to surround whoever steps in at quarterback, either Hupp or Tyce, like you said, what's the rest of the offense look like that complements what you have up front leading the way, but then whoever steps in at quarterback?
In terms of the running back position and the receiver positions, like at this point, it's still kind of a committee thing. Literally, we're rotating like 4, even 5 guys through the tailback spot because they're also getting defensive looks, and we're trying to, again, find that best fit. Corey Holden is probably he's a senior. He's the leading yardage returner. He probably had 300 yards rushing last year. Got some carries in the playoffs, was oftentimes put in as that when we would go what we call heavy personnel when we're going to get into old school like goal line smash mouth stuff. He was oftentimes that next back in after Munyon and Hines and another senior that we had named Eden. We had 3 seniors in the backfield.
Yeah.
And so he did a great job. Then you've got Logan Jones and Larkin Johnson and another senior named Luke Link. And all 3 of those are doing a great job. And then a couple sophomores pushing them. Logan Russell is very, very talented as a sophomore. So those guys are all kind of sharing the carries. And then also, though, all 4 of those guys are like their defense, right? Like, and so if I can get to 22, I always love doing that. But if I can get to at the very least where a guy's playing all the snaps one way and then sharing the snaps on the other side of the ball with another guy, like I can live with that. And so that's kind of the mix that we're trying to figure out with those guys. In terms of wideout, like Evan Anderson has put himself in the conversation for as good as he looks like $1 million. He's worked so hard to change his body. He was always a fit kid, but he is a grown man. His route running, his awareness of how to get open, and man, I think it's going to be a pretty special season for him. And then Hayden Henry, who played some H-back for us, a tight end H-back, what we call it in our offense last year. But Kuhn got a lot. The senior that graduated got a lot more of those kinds of catches and key minutes. So Hayden is going to be a big weapon. And then after that, we've got a lot of sophomores that are pushing for time, but they're talented sophomores. So it's going to be fun.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited. So when does everything start ramping up for you? Like, you have scrimmages coming up the next couple of weeks before you lead into the end of August and week 1?
Yeah, we certainly aren't lacking for competition. So we scrimmage Granville this week. They were in the Final Four just a couple years ago. It's at our place. They returned a great nucleus from their terrific team last year. And then we travel to Watterson. So we go from a Final Four team to a state final team. And they've got, I remember last year scrimmaging them, and I felt pretty good about what is our current sophomore group as freshmen. They were undefeated through junior high or 8th grade. And they come in as freshmen. I'm like, this is a pretty good group for us. And Watterson's got 43 freshmen, and they're grown men as freshmen. I mean, that program it's always been fantastic, but I feel like it's getting even better. So we've watched it. We've scrimmaged them for the last 5 or 6 years and played them in the playoffs once. So, and then we go Licking Valley. We take a tour of Licking County. We go Licking Valley, Watkins, Licking Heights. We play the team that's been in the state finals 3 times, and then 2 teams that are literally double our enrollment. They're terrific football schools, great athletes. So it's going to get interesting.
We're so excited, Coach. I mean, you guys had an amazing year last year, but it sounds like you guys are in store for a lot more, not only this year, but the next couple of years, just with the amount of, not only the amount of guys, but it just seems like the amount of hard-working guys that are also talented. So we're really excited, Coach. But thanks for hopping on today, man, talking some football, chopping it up for 15 minutes. And best of luck this year, man. And it's always fun talking to you.
Thank you. Same. I'm sorry for the long-winded answers, but it's fun to talk football.
No, dude, I love the long-winded answers because I just soak it up like a sponge, man. I love football. I know you love football, and so just to talk it up about this stuff, man, it makes my day. So,
thank you. Mine too.